Well, hey, welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. Today I am finally getting to a point where I have so much done on all the different pieces of Scott's C10 pickup that it's time to try and assemble it. And part of that is we need to get it off the table because we need to run brake lines, fuel lines, transmission lines. You get the idea. We have to run parking brake cables. And while it's not too bad reaching over onto the table, it's going to be easier if we can raise the truck up and down on the lift. We can test the bags, we can whatever, everything. So today is going to be a full day of clean out a little bit of the shop, move some stuff around, get the frame cut loose from the table, get the bed off of it, move the cab out of the way, get the frame out here in the middle of the of this bay, and then set the bed and the cab and just kind of assemble the whole truck. We've got doors back from from blasting. We've got fenders that are back that need some rust repair. Waiting on a hood, but it should be back possibly this weekend. So just a lot of that kind of stuff. We just need to start assembling stuff and making things fit, figure out what doesn't fit, figure out what we don't have, what we do have. You know, we did an inventory years ago, or a year plus ago, when we got the truck, and we've gone through a whole bunch of those parts, but gone through as in they're installed and we've used them, but we need to start finishing this project up and getting it ready for paint. We've got a little more body work to do on the cab and some wiring and, other stuff we need to do, but we'll do that while it's on the frame. And then it'll go to get blasted, and then we'll be basically ready to blow. We should be able to blow the whole truck apart, send it for powder coat and paint. Well, let's start getting stuff out of the way and we'll get busy. That's it, laid all the way out. I'm going to go ahead and install the steering and move this wiring out of the way, and then we'll air it back up, push the frame back and lower the body onto it. I started actually on this project yesterday, and that is to extend my air intake tube to make an airbox over here behind the headlight that would also kind of act not so much as an inner fender, but would create a box or most of a box to prevent the air filter from getting saturated with water, either by running through a puddle or just water coming off of the front tire. The box I built is really only two-sided or three-sided. It has a bottom. So it's got a side on the engine compartment, side towards the tire. Then we're using the inside of the fender and the radiator support for the other two sides. And I didn't film it, mostly because I just didn't know how it was going to play out. I just kind of kept playing with ideas and working on stuff. I had to clear the tire when the truck is lowered all the way down. I had to allow it to turn, the tire to turn. So the box is somewhat odd shaped as well as being very small. I mean, it's just really tight. I wanted to run a big air filter like this one, which is probably about 10 inches long. It's bigger around in diameter. You have to actually use an adapter, so it's kind of silly. Scott already had this air filter with the truck when it was brought here, so this is what we're going to run. Just because, although this kind of fits the adapter that it needs, it makes it rigid and just makes it take up too much space. So I don't really think there's any real benefit in that system. And when I ordered, and really the filters were kind of free, I ordered a bunch of tubing and it came with filters. And so I have two of these and two of the adapters, so no big deal. We didn't lose any money there. But I thought the filter was going to be bigger than the green one here, but with the regular opening size. So I just didn't realize there was going to be this adapter. So like I said, no big deal. We're just not going to use it. This filter fits fine. Something longer would fit, just fine. And I'm down to the last piece, and I'll kind of clip in here. And I took a piece of scrap, straight pipe, trying to figure out the angle. Works out, it's about 27 degrees. So I'm gonna now take some other pieces that are short and try and get my angle a little better. I just kind of cut out a slice and then left enough material here I could bend it until I got the right shape. And then my plan is to leave enough room to put one more rubber straight boot between the box and the regular air tube so that it can be taken out in pieces rather than having to take the whole thing in and out of the truck. It also allows me to go in after I weld it, and I can clean up the inside of the welds so that the tube doesn't have any bulges or weld perforations or anything. I don't even know what to call them. Any weld boogers inside. How's that? So this stuff is fairly thin. My aluminum welding is not the best in the world, so I'm just kind of working at it. And I did get a new welder recently. It was a gift from my wife, although she's like, if you want one, just buy it and we'll call it your birthday gift. So you know how those work. So I got a new MIG welder, or it's a multi-purpose welder, and it does aluminum MIG. And that's what I've been kind of playing with. It's definitely better than my aluminum TIG, but it's still hard to get a really pretty weld. I've never been one that, like, your welds need to be shown off anyway. I tend to grind almost all my welds just to make everything look smooth because it's just a weld. Not really been that big a deal to me to try and show them off. But anyway, so we're going to try and come up with a final piece to the puzzle here. I'll get a few pictures so you can kind of see what this whole thing looks like. And then when we take it back out, I'll get some more video. So thanks. Got the angle cut. I had a piece of 45 tubing, cut it down the center to be basically 22 and a half, and then cut two small slices out of that to get it down to about the 25 degree angle that I needed. I've just got the magnets there just to kind of keep things from rolling around, and then I've got a couple pieces of tape on here to hold it. You see that aluminum's not real clean. And I mean, I've cleaned it, but it's not a real pure, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's not a real good pure aluminum. There's the weld. You could do, sometimes I'll get a good run going and I'll get a pretty nice looking weld through here. It's not too bad looking. Of course it's aluminum, so don't always get a real nice weld. That I had a gap there I had to fill. And then you get a little bit of kind of booger stuff in there. So we'll go over this with a flap disc now, clean that up, and see how it comes out after that. And if you're working on aluminum, guys, I've tried this brand Blackhawk, and these are flap discs, and I got some cutting discs from them. I did pay full price, so no sponsors or anything, but these are specifically for aluminum, and they do a good job. So I can recommend them. I'll put a link in the description so you guys can find them. Got a little bit of a low spot right here on the top, so I'm going to put another bead across there, fill that in a little better, and then we'll grind that down. Maybe try and find some, this is 36 grit, so maybe find a little bit of 80 and even some 120 or 200 grit and clean that up a little bit better. I'm going to be cutting this off somewhere down here, so don't have to worry about those other pieces. Got a little bit of cleanup to do on the inside. I'm doing my cleanup with just a die grinder and a, you could call it a fingertip sander, finger sander, I don't know. A little bitty belt sander. Now this die grinder, or this bit, is really made for steel. I've got the ones that have the much wider grooves in them for aluminum so that they don't kick on aluminum. The problem is I don't have any that are real long reach, and while I could probably get this with the others, this will make it a little bit easier. The trick I found is spray a little bit of WD-40 in there as you're going, and the WD-40 tends to help keep it from building up on your die grinders. So let me get an air hose, some WD-40, and we'll get that going. Alright, there you go. Nice smooth finish. Smoothish. Take that sander now, just do a little more work on it, and then you're ready to cut off the other side. There it is with just 80 grit all the way around. And then what we'll do is we'll get this other side done. That way I don't have to take the 80 grit back off and try and waste the paper. But we'll get this other side cut, get that weld done, and then we'll hit the whole thing with the 120 and just see how it looks. So because I decided to put another coupler on here, I need to put a bead on here so that the coupler won't blow apart. This is just a beading die. I've also got one of the little small ones, and it works all right. It's just this is a little thick for it, so what I found is if I just use this to get it going, then if I want to redefine it a little more or something like that, I can do it with the other. But this usually does it just fine, even though these dies are a little big for what we're doing. That should be enough to get us started. And I've got just the barest hint of the aluminum sticking out there, and I just roll this around, trying to keep that right on that amount. That does the first one. Add another turn in here, and that'll probably be enough. And then we'll have to take it back and just kind of straighten out that lip a little bit. That's plenty. Now you can see it kind of deforms the inside lips. Alright, so we just got to clean that edge up. Cleaned up this edge with the hammer, just straighten it out a little bit, make it nice and round. Test fit this a couple times. I've got some marks here where I want it. If you guys don't already know, whatever, get brushes and use them only for, like this one, I have 3 for aluminum, different sizes, 3 for stainless steel, different sizes. You don't want to be cross-contaminating your different welds by using a wire brush that you used on stainless on aluminum, or ones that you've used on carbon steel on either aluminum or stainless. A little more here and this will be fixed in place. We can pull this box out. We're more than halfway around, so I think we're safe to pull all this out. And then we'll have to cut this panel to fit around this, but do that after we've cleaned it up. We got to take this back, put a small bead in this end. Probably do this with the smaller roller just so we get it real close to the end of the tube here. Let me get this apart and I'll show you everything when it's sitting on the table. So here we go. Here are the pieces. Gonna go on there. This goes in. And then there are 2 bolts that go down inside here that go into the core support from the inside. One of them uses an existing nut that was in there. The other one is going to have one of these flat nuts, weld-on nuts, put onto it, weld it to the outside, and then still screw it in from the inside. So 2 more coming in from the bottom. They go into some existing bolts that would have caught the original inner fender. So we'll put those 2 on. There we go. That will be the whole setup. And rather than just using regular worm gear clamps, I think probably we'll just use this on this joint, and we may come back with another one on this joint, just cleaned up a little bit. All we're trying to do is seal it from sucking in unfiltered air, but at this point we don't want to be sucking in either unfiltered or unmetered air from our mass airflow sensor. But you can see how it all goes together, and then we use an existing radiator shroud bolt and a little rubber bushing here. Good, I don't have to yell. That goes in there. That adds the additional support. There we go. Yeah, we just tighten that up with a feel bit. See, it makes a nice, clean, finished look. Then this panel that goes down inside here will just need to be notched, and I think we can notch it at the top rather than all, from the bottom up, because it goes down in there quite a bit. So I've got, I want to get my weld nut on the radiator support I want to get that welded on. Okay, so hopefully you can see that notch I've cut out there. And that's just from taking the top, trying to reinstall it, and it touched the air intake tube. And then while it was sitting in there, we're pretending this is the one that's in the truck. I just took my pen and I laid it on there and marked across the top where it intersected this panel, and then came and trimmed it out. And I did that. It took 3 tries before I had a nice arc. Now we're going to set this on here. We're just eyeballing it. I had tried to leave myself between 1/8 and 3/16 of an inch. So that's about there. So that gives us a circle. Now I want to find the center of that circle so that I can use a compass, draw a slightly bigger circle that I can then cut out, leaving myself that same 3/16 roughly opening. And then I want to have yet a bigger circle marked out that I can go back and run through the bead roller to put a nice little flange on there to match kind of what we've got going. So what we need to do is, you'll remember way back when in geometry class, you're going to draw a chord, which is just a line that intersects both sides of the circle, and we want it slightly lower or slightly higher, it doesn't matter. We're going to work with lower than where we think the center line of the circle is. With that done, we're going to take our compass. We're going to go to the point where the chord intersects the circle. We're going to mark a line above the chord, another one below the chord. Do the same thing on the other side. Above the chord, below the chord, and we have 2 points. So now we're going to connect those dots, drawing a line through there. Now that line is perpendicular to our first chord. This is also a chord. It also will be through the center of the circle from left to right in this case. So we use the same settings on our compass, don't have to change anything. We go to the new intersection of the chord and the circle. We draw one to the left, one to the right. Same thing from the bottom. One to the left and right. Gives us 2 more points. Now when we connect those 2 points, you have yet a 3rd chord, and that is the center of our circle. So there's your fabrication / geometry lesson for the day. So now we're going to set our compass for the distance of the circle, and then using a ruler, so right now it's dead on 2 inches. So we're going to, the gap up there that I created, like I said, it's a little under 3/16, but it's more than an 1/8. So we'll pick up on that and add that to our radius. That's what we're measuring out here. Was 2 inches is the radius, half the circle. And I'm going to kind of copy that other. And then we're going to draw a new circle. There we go. So we have a second circle that is where we plan to cut. Now we're going to draw one more circle, and I think I'm going to go all the way out to 2.5 inches. There we go. So we'll cut on this circle, and we'll use this one as our guide to flange this out. Now, one of the other things we're going to do is we are not going to cut the whole circle because we still have no way to get it in. We've got to cut it straight off. So we've got the circle that's for the air pipe, and we've got this circle that we're making into a U, and that's going to be what we cut out so that we can get this up over the pipe, and then we will be cutting or bending, running through the bead roller, what I'm trying to say, on this circle, or this U shape. And that will give us a nice finished edge for the airbox. So I'll take this apart. Mark those lines straight up, run that through, probably cut most of that on the bandsaw, and then clean it up with just a flat disc. Now with this airbox installed, you can kind of see the filter back here behind the headlight. But there's room for the headlight and all the wiring. There's that bottom bolt. And I originally had planned to be able to put that in from the inside and just weld that weld nut onto this outside, like this one. This is a factory one. Problem with that ended up being I could not get my hand all the way down in there with the air tube and everything in there. When I designed it, I could, but that was before the air tube got put in. So no big deal. We just used a blind nut, you know, the clips that you put on, and ran the bolt through from this side, even easier. So that's done. I'm working on this top panel. I gotta add some grooves I had to, or not grooves, but some notches I had to fill in at the back there. And then I still need to weld this tab on a little better. This side will be done. We'll go to the other side and start working on the electrical. In the meantime, obviously, we have this nice air box, but no way to get air in. So what I plan to do is come in and cut a couple of round holes in this core support and then flange those so that they're still structurally strong. But that, you know, if I get like one in here, maybe one down here and one here, 3 2-inch holes, that ought to be more than enough kind of ram air effect to get air into the air box. So the other thing I'd like to do that I haven't done yet is drill a couple of small holes in the bottom of this. We'll flange those also for structure. But that's just in case we ever get water in the box, which we will, driving in the rain. It has a place to drain out and not drain into the fender or whatever. So we'll be getting it as much out of there as we can. I'm going to go find a hole saw. We may do a couple different sizes. Something that fits in the flat part down here that will let us flange it still. And then something over here. And like I said, maybe something right there. Decided on 1.5 inches. And I think we're going to do 4 of them to get the airflow that I'd like. So we need to drill some starter holes, and then we've got a punch so we can punch the holes. There and there. Let's see. We need to. That's one, that's one, that's one, that's one. I'm going to move that about 3/4 inch each way. We'll go there and there. I like the look of that a little better. It's kind of a little closer to that kind of spacing. All right, let me find some drills. All right, guys, so what we're going to use is a punch press, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody has one of these things for sale. I bought mine at, this is the press part. I bought mine at Harbor Freight years ago. Had it for a long time. And it comes with dies that are, they're sized for pipe rather than, say, tubing like we would use for roll cages or whatever. But if you want something that's more closely associated with car stuff, Swag Off Road sells more dies and all kinds of stuff. They also sell dimple dies. Maybe that's what they sell. Maybe it's not that they sell different cutting dies, but they sell maybe dimple dies that match the size of these cutting dies that would have been for pipe. So Anyway, once you get it up, and all you do is you've got a hydraulic ram pump here, or hydraulic pump. So you can see this, the way this press works is it's got some cut scalloped edges on there, sharp scalloped edges, and they push inside that cup with an interference fit. Makes a wavy washer, but does the job really nice. And then I have dimple dies. This one's for 1.5" hole, and I want the flare to go in, so we're going to put the flared side on the inside. The neat thing is you can use the same tool, whereas the cutting die normally threads on there. In this case, we put that on there, and we just need a nut that fits that. So I think I've got one in my toolbox. Let me grab it. Okay, well, I didn't have one in my toolbox. So what we're going to use instead, I'll put a couple of big washers on here, just so we don't pull the metal through. That'll fit on there. Let's see, we want to pull the flare in, so that goes to the inside. This comes to this side. It's going to go like that. This piece is going to go on the inside. Then we're going to use the cutting piece. We'll use it as a nut on the back side there. So get this stuff in place. Snugged up. So pump that up good and tight. That's on there. It's flattened out on this side. I can't really see the inside, but we loosen it up. Reverse the process. And we have a nice flared opening. Nothing real big, just, you know, subtle amount of flare. All right, well, there we have it. 4 holes, let some air in, you know, plus what goes around the headlight and just around everything else. That should be plenty of airflow now in for that air filter to draw from without, you know, I don't know, you're not going to create a vacuum. There are too many holes in there. I do plan to put some rubber seals up against the fender and up against this top panel, just to keep water from going in off of the tires, but even that's probably overkill. Maybe I may just do it off the fender side and call that good. All right, guys, so this is where the air is going to go in. You can see the tank over, or the air box that we made, and we've got 2 small 3/4 inch holes flared out to let the water, any other debris out. This is all done. I cleaned up the opening for the air tube to go through this panel, and then I rolled a bead in it that, you know, at least it's the right step, matches there. Can barely even see it. Once these are, there's not a lot of body work to do on them, but there'll be a little bit. Once they're done with that and painted, and then the inside or the bottom side of them will get some kind of bed liner or undercoating, so because they are the inner fender. On this top piece, the part that you're looking at when you're, you know, from the top of the truck, I went ahead and added these 2 little triangles, I don't know, teeth. And that's because when it comes down, it lays in. Let's see if I can show you. So it lays in like that to make it look like it's completely round. And I did that because when it was in the truck, you could see those little triangle gaps here above the air tube. So I just didn't like the look of that. Got notches down here at the bottom. That's for the A-arm, and that clears fully compressed and gives some wiggle room, at least 1/8 of an inch all the way around. There's the rest of the components for the airbox. So that side is done. Next up, what we've got is I made these mounts. This is the first thing I did with that aluminum MIG welder. And you can see I didn't have things as clean as I should have, so I've got some booger welds and stuff here. So anyway, I need to pull the radiator back out, clean all that up, and I need to weld the inside of those. Probably get out the TIG welder for that. Anyway, there is it's kind of cool. This radiator is kind of cool. It's got a cooler on both sides. So this side we're going to plumb it into the power steering pump, and that will help with our hydro boost, since we're going to be using power steering pressure for hydro boost as well as the steering. That'll help with cooling that fluid. And then this truck's going to Northern California, so really not going to have a problem with overheating or anything. It's going to be in a nice cool climate for most of its life from now on. Same thing on this side. I just need to clean up my welds a little bit. I got a little better by the time I got to this side. And then we have this expansion tank that I want to mount just on the side of the radiator here. Just get it out of the way. It does not have a pressure cap, although it does have a O-ring on it. So it's just an expansion tank. The short straw it goes right into the bottom. Should let the thing fill up about to here, and then this longer straw is a straw all the way up the inside. So once you get to an overflow point, it would overflow out of there. But the idea is it would expand into here and drain out, or be drawn back in as the radiator cools. So that's that. And then we've got the other ports down here for the transmission cooler. So this port here is for our steam vent off the LS engine. So it's a nice LS conversion type radiator. I wish I knew what brand it was. I can't see any branding on it anywhere, but I'd probably look into buying another one for the red C10. So we're starting to get this thing buttoned up, and the idea here is we're just going to take it one piece at a time. This side is done. We're going to come back, work on the radiator, then we'll get that side done. I need to work out the steering still. I don't like how this is mounted, so I need to cut some of that away. It's going to get mounted in the same place. I just want something strong and safe. So we're going to just rebuild that mount. And then once we get the engine out of the way, we're going to go to the back there where we've got the hole, and we've got a block for that. This is this thing here. And this is actually for a Holley Terminator X, I think. But it looks like the sizes are going to work to where I made myself a pattern. And this is going to be under the passenger side inner fender to catch electronics to bolt to sit down on. So this is some 1/8 inch aluminum. Go ahead and cut this out, left flanges, so we could add some structure to it. Probably put one drain hole in the middle or something just to make sure water doesn't sit up on it. Anyway, let's get this cut out. All right, well, this is plate that I cut after making that form, and this is where our electrical is going to mount. And what I want to do is bend some sides onto it. So there'll be 3 sides here that are going to bend down, and this one will bend up and hopefully catch a bolt hole. And then we'll have to weld a tab on the bottom and probably a gusset across it just to make it a little bit stronger. But all that said, I've had some success bending this. A lot of times I start trying to put a 90 in it, especially this short. I can't even bend it. It just pops out of the brake. Now I guess I could have left this longer, bent it, then cut it off. That probably would have been an option. One thing I've been thinking about, I wanted to try, was to see if I could anneal this. I don't know what kind of aluminum it is, but if I could anneal it, then maybe we can bend it easier. I've done this like one time. I know what we want is a really sooty mix. There we go. We're going to get that soot on there. Right now I'm just running pure gas. There's no oxygen mixed in. Look at the whole plate. Alright, now we're going to add oxygen. Turn that up a little bit. Add some oxygen. There we go, finally. Now we want to heat this plate up until the soot burns off. Honestly, a big rosebud would be better for this, but it'll just take a little longer. We'll get it. Well, putting a warp in it. There it goes, it's relaxing. That's good enough. We don't really need to do anything in the middle. I'll let that cool. Well, it worked. I bent the short sides first, and then I bent this long side, and that one was a chore. I basically only could get it to about 45, 50 degrees, and then I had to just put it on the end of an anvil and hammer it over the rest of the way. I'm trying to bend this 1/8 inch aluminum on a brake made for 16 gauge steel, maximum 16 gauge steel, so it's asking a lot of it anyway, but bending like this lip and these others were super easy. This one, I just kept trying to pop it out of the teeth, so it was just better time just to get over there and hammer it out a little bit. So we've got, I test fit it once. Got one bolt hole that we're going to line up right there. Another one that's going to be over here somewhere, and we'll just have to weld a tab down. And then from that one, maybe going across this, or we could put another bolt over here with a rod on it to go down to the radiator support, just to act as a support so it's not flexing and breaking this side off. That's probably the better idea. And we'll just have a bolt from the top here, and a bolt from the side here, and another one from the bottom of it here. And this tray will sit, and we'll get to mount all of our, we've got a couple of relays, our engine fuse block, the engine harness fuse block came from GM. I think that's it. 2 relays and 2 circuit breakers for the fans. So there's not a lot to put up here, but a few things. Now you can get an idea. This set of wires here has got to be cut off back over here and rerouted. But fuse box will go here. It's got a cover that goes over it. So we've still got a little bit of room around it in case we need to mount anything else. But basically we've got plenty of room here. We've got the fuse block, and then with the covers on, sit in place. Hides everything, but it's only a couple bolts. You can take that off, access the fuses, and like I said, there's a plastic cover that goes over this to make it basically watertight. So that's about it for this corner. Got to take this fender back off and add a couple of brackets to the inside here to hold the AC hoses up out of the way, and the heater hoses that are transitioning back here. You can kind of see the AC hoses, and then the heater hoses are going to go around and then come back to the front. So I just need to add a couple of just bracket or just areas there where I can hold those up tight to the fenders. So, otherwise, this is pretty much done. I got to do a little bit more cleanup on this panel, add a little filler strip around it. This side will be done as well, and we can move on to somewhere else on the truck. Well, next up, I'm going to pull the rest of the air conditioning components out. We've got the wiring harness loose, and get the thing jacked back up, get the transmission mount loose, pull the engine mount, get the engine and transmission out of here. That'll let me have access down here to the steering mount, the U-joint. And then I think do a little more. I got a few things I want to dress up on the firewall. I got one hole I need to drill over here. Pull some of those components off. Pull all the wiring out of the truck. I pull the air conditioning unit out of the truck, the interior, and fab. I think I've got one little area on the driver's side rocker panel I want to work on a little bit. And the cab is ready for stripping. The problem is I don't know if we're going to get to strip it before the painter is ready for it, because the stripper is waiting on material, and we may end up having to just hand strip it just with sanders. Not a lot, you know, but possibility. I've got a little work to do on the bed, so the bed I'm going to be taking it back off the truck, setting it on a rack, and I can do all that work there. But I'd like to get the inner fenders back there finished fit, so that I can just finish up the welding on those, and then they can go to they'll be ready to go to the painter as well. So first step though, let's get a few of these pieces out of the way and get the engine and transmission out of the truck. Gets me ready to go. The guy that does my glass bead and soda and sandblasting, media blasting, I talked to him earlier. He's actually finally ready for the cab, so we get it off, get it blasted, get it back, touch up any details I need to do, but I think I'm pretty well there. And then it'll go over, get mounted back to the frame with fenders and all the other stuff, and we'll get it off to the painter. So I know this video has been kind of broken up. You've seen all kinds of different little details, from fixing rocker panels and doing a little bit of wiring and doing just whatever I had. And that's just months and months of video clips that have all been put together for this particular video. Basically, this is the last time you're going to see this truck until it's at the painters and we're starting to look at all the work the painter's doing. I'll probably get you one more short clip when it's all reassembled and ready to roll out on the trailer to the painters. But for now, this is it. So, again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all the other YouTube stuff. We'll see you again next time on Allison Customs Project Car TV.